Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday, and I am with Dr. Erin Moore, who is a naturopath turned the Love Doctor. So, Erin focuses on mind body medicine and has turned that into self marriage to allow us to love ourselves in a better way. So, Erin, I'm going to let you take it from there.
hmm Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you guys. As Holly said, I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I was trained as a primary care physician. I don't know if you're familiar with the practice, but I kind of always knew I was going to do something a little different, stretch myself a little more into the woo, and I'd always had this idea even before school. I don't know if y'all know the festival Burning Man, but I went there in like 2009, and there was a little uh, agenda item that was like self-marriage ceremony. And I said, well, that sounds interesting. So just in a little dusty teepee in the desert, I married myself. And that was just like a 1 hour ceremony, kind of a quick thing, but it turned out to be like a really profound turning point in my life. I never really thought about that before, to be everything that I needed and that I could source from myself, happiness that I was seeking in a partner. So it hit me in a big way, and I continued to just reorient my life in that way, from the very beginning of school. And then throughout school, friends who would just ask me about it. And eventually I talked about it so much that people started asking me to marry them to themselves.
That's so
So
awesome.
yeah, so I just started doing it for fun. All this is to say, when it was my final year of school, I heard this doctor speak at a conference, and he told me about he was talking about how he had these like incredible healings with like his patients. He would kind of, by identifying the mental emotional root of their physical symptom and resolving that, then their physical symptom would resolve. And he
Yes.
had kind of like, developed this technique. And I was like, dang, I got to learn that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I started studying with that guy. And in a nutshell, this is what I do today. I use that technique and other techniques of mind body medicine, because really self healing. Yes, that's a really profound
Mhm.
process of self healing, and that's really all self marriage is too. I kind of think them all as the same. Self marriage is the process of self healing, is the process of self love. They are all one and the same. So I've kind of just like fused all these things together in the work that I'm doing today. As I was talking, I'm like, did she even ask me this? Like, why am I telling this story?
It's all awesome. I love it because it's cool to know what set you on your journey. Like,
hmm
what was it that actually got you there? I mean, I'm a mind body person. This is one of the
Uh-huh.
things I keep, and that was one of my very first naturopath. We did a lot of energy and mind body work because
hmm
that was the dis-ease in my body,
Yeah.
a chunk of it. And it's still a work in progress.
Forever, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Because we have things that start from very early ages that we have to unpack and all of that.
Yeah.
So tell us how this, because I know you're getting married soon, and
Yeah.
how do you think that this journey of marrying yourself and uncovering a different concept for self-love and kind of intertwining that, how do you think that's impacted you moving forward into the relationship that you're choosing to be in?
That's a good question. And
Because I
I
think all that goes hand in hand in hand too. I mean, it's.
yeah, totally. So I work primarily with women, but the women that come into my programs for to learn how to marry themselves, it's like a wide range. Some of them, they're fresh out of divorce, and some are single and like wanting to find somebody, and some are partnered up. And so I think that, well, first of all, for single ladies, it like this process of learning how to be your own partner,
Mm.
It first of all helps you clarify what you want in a partner, like how you want to be treated, because you have to. It's the process of learning to treat yourself that way, and then it does two things really, like that are coming to the top of my head. One is that it takes the pressure off of the other person, you know? Like there is, once you learn to really cultivate the skills, and they're just like totally learnable skills, not any magic tricks of relating, uh, relating deeply and compassionately with yourself, then there's not so much reliance on the partner. They're like icing on the cake, you know? And another thing that I've seen happen that I think is pretty cool is, I've had some clients who are like, I always wanted the man. I look for the guy, and like, I can't find him. So I'm just going to marry myself, almost like a defeatist. And I'm like, all right, well, like how can that be a bad place to start? But what happens is like when we do that work in ourselves, provide for ourselves what we think what we would want from a partner, it like magnetizes the partner. So like I often have people in my programs like come in single, and then they become the person they want to be in relationship, but it's with themselves. And then like they start meeting a new level of person. So I think that's kind of like happened a bit in me and my relationship. First of all, it really takes the pressure off of him, because I still have expectations of him, and like we have a normal relationship. But I'm fairly skilled, and always practicing becoming more skilled in relationship with myself, which means I can make myself happy, and I can soothe and comfort myself, and
That's
I can
awesome.
work through a lot of these things on my own. And also I think it encourages him to, as I level up, then, it encourages him to level up too. He's got to become the person that, to meet me,
Yeah.
uh, this new deeper level wherever I'm at.
Yeah.
So I think it's been really quite good for our relationship.
That's
And,
awesome.
it's not a binding contract, self-marriage, so you can still marry other people.
Right.
Marry
That's
yourself
right.
first though, if you have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say it's no longer his job. It's you haven't made it his job to make you
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
And
Not his job.
I do we see that a lot, with relationships or just even one of the questions that I will ask women in particular is, well, what do you want? And it's really, really challenging for women to know what they really desire and to not feel guilty about their own wants and desires and needs.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
when we don't know, we can't communicate that, and that puts a lot of pressure on another person.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. It's the asking the impossible.
Yeah, yeah, you figure me out for me. When
Yeah.
that's so I love that deeper work and that
Mm-hmm.
I geek out over this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so rewarding, especially, yeah, to do it on your own, because it's like what I hear so many times, or what I just love to hear, is like that, like no matter what change you're doing yourself. And I'll just tell you, just for some groundwork, people are like, what is self-marriage at all?
Yes.
So there's a definition I like to use from the lady that married me. She says self-marriage is a ceremony, a daily practice, and a lifelong commitment to living a life of love and compassion for yourself. So it's all those things at once. And it's just a commitment, a devotion to you for your life. And the way I teach it, I teach 6 practices of self-marriage. And these are like the practices of relationship with self. So self-kindness, self-forgiveness, self-expression, self-protection, boundaries and such, and self honesty,
Mm,
self trust. So, and that's kind of the way that I like kind of organize it in my mind, or like to make it more bite sized. And so, what I was gonna say is, these things can sound like big and scary, like they can't, like to set boundaries, to like to peer deeply into myself and, face the parts of myself that I wish were not there, and to all, to forgive myself for something awful that I've done or for the way that I've behaved. These things can seem really scary, okay? But then what I really love is that when once you do it, and it's like there's not any, like I was saying, there's not any magic to any of this. So like, my favorite comments are like, I was so anxious about this, so anxious to set this boundary, so anxious to express this thing, and then in the end, like 99% of the time, it's like, oh, well, that wasn't so hard, like, oh, like that wasn't that big of a deal. You just like work things up to be so big.
Yeah.
So yeah, the more we go, it's really rewarding to see yourself become stronger and to, like show yourself experientially, you can do this.
What I love is that it's very tangible and accessible and practical.
I think so.
I mean, it does create transformation, but um, it's the opportunity to own your own responsibility, to own it for yourself rather than like in a Reiki session, as an example. The practitioner is clearing it, the practitioner is rebalancing your energy. And this, yes, you're working alongside someone. However, it's like this is mine. I get to create this. I get to heal in this way.
Mm.
And there's something I think even more profound and more powerful when we get to take ownership of that.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And this is the naturopathic way. Like we have a principle, the role of the naturopathic doctor is to make themselves obsolete.
I love that.
And yeah, and so I'm absolutely trying to do that. Not that, people, I really see my role in people's lives as temporary. I mean, it would be great like
Right.
to, know my clients forever. But it really is my sincere intention to create and share something always, even when I'm just doing like a short like live in my group or something like that, to package it up and like send them off and fly, like you can do this. Yeah, like the dependence on the teacher can be especially these days, there's so many different people in the online space, it can be a dangerous thing.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. Like what I hope for people is that I come, you or I, whoever, they find the right teacher at the right point in their life, and then they get the skill that helps them to to be a better captain of their own ship. And then there will be another teacher. The work goes on forever and ever, but
Yes.
yeah, it's all about like just becoming more skilled at doing it ourselves. Yeah. I appreciate that. Thanks for
Well, that
bringing.
living life
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
creating healthy relationships and healthy bodies.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah. So here's, since this group is health warriors with autoimmunes, let's
Mhm.
make this a little bit more autoimmune specific. Um, how can your work help someone who's dealing with an autoimmune? How do you think that those two go hand in hand, or what have you observed, or maybe if you've had someone go through that, you can speak to their story?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's so I should have mentioned the doc who inspired me, who developed the practice that I use now. It's called holistic counseling. Um, his specialty is myasthenia gravis, which is progressive autoimmune disease. And so, yeah, and that's why I was like so amazed by the thing in the first place. Like, oh my God, this is like modern medicine doesn't have a cure for this. And he's like curing people by finding the mental emotional root of it.
Mhm.
So it is autoimmunity, it's becoming, we're learning so much more and more about it like every day. But in the end, I would say, like most chronic diseases, almost every chronic disease has a mental emotional component to it, has a mental emotional root. I just kind of qualify this a little bit because I'm not of the belief system that it's all in the mind and all in the emotional body. Like obviously the environment and our our diet and genetics and so many other things come into play. This mental emotional root. So I will say now, I'll tell you, like, that's just one that it's not autoimmunity. Although I have worked with clients with like IBD in the past, and gotten like great resolution of symptoms, and it all comes down to the same thing. So I'll just give it to you in a nutshell. This story is just front of mind because I'm actually working with a man with Parkinson's right now, and we've just had like one session together. We're on a 3-month program, so I can't wait to tell you the results. But his case is very common, like what is happening with him. So yeah, I do still see some like physical clients with physical disease on the side. Mostly I'm just doing the women with self marriage. But anyway, so we're like it starts like how does this symptom, how does this disease, how is it affecting you now, right? So it can be like in the conversation, we identify like usually the questions that you want to ask yourself are, how do I feel about this symptom? What does this or about this diagnosis, this disease, how does it make me feel? Yeah. And what does it keep me from doing?
Yeah.
Like what has these are the way, like, because really in the mental and the mind body way, we're looking for what is this symptom trying to teach you, right?
Right.
So with this guy with Parkinson's, we are talking through his symptoms, and he's got the shake, he's got a few of the common presentations of Parkinson's, and it's a trembling voice that gets him the most, like that bothers him the most. And just in exploring that, even though so many other like physical symptoms you would think like that would be more bothersome for other people. And he said something along the lines of, if people hear me, they'll think I'm like less than a man, less than a whole man, they'll know something's wrong with me. And then this is the entry point then for like, what is this really about? Okay. So really this fella has had the sense that something's wrong with him for his whole life, since his childhood. And it's like, and now, like the words that he uses to describe himself, how he thought of himself as a kid, are the words that they're the same language, that he's using to describe the way that he's afraid of being perceived by his peers, by his colleagues and things like that, that he's just a no good, weak, vulnerable, less than a man, not good enough, So we get that straightened out.
Yeah.
We get, and so it's showing up, and like he can't speak, he can't express himself. So this is just one example, and I'll tell you guys, like this is how it looks for every client, no matter if I see them for asthma or eczema or inflammatory bowel disease or Parkinson's or hypothyroidism or whatever it is. It's like, what is happening now, and in what way is this, like, how is this symptom a messenger of like deeper healing? So the technique really that I use, there's so many different ways to come at this, but this one is just a dialogue that helps to identify that point where we're made to feel like we are not okay as we are.
Yeah.
There's almost no case where it doesn't come down to that, that's always the root.
Yeah.
So it's simple in that way, that all and it's almost like I'm like mind blown talking about it. Like, can it be that simple? But it is, it is really. And then like with that, once that can start moving, and that's not easy work down there to really, because we all know, like in our minds, like, yeah, I know I'm enough, but like that's not where we need to do the healing. You know, it's in here. It's in our cells. It's in our tissues. It's in our bones. So that's the real work. And once we got our whole 100% of us, or at least like 95% of us on board, like, hey, I actually am okay. Wow, I actually am okay. I am worthy of love and acceptance, but I don't need that person to accept me to be okay.
Yep.
you know and that frees up so much energy, and symptoms, the ones that are tied to it, resolve. This is how it works.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, so
I know that
exciting.
was a loaded question, but I think really important. So thank you for answering that.
Yeah,
One of
yeah.
the activities that I've done that has been incredibly powerful was just to look in a mirror in my own eyes and to have to
Hmm.
tell myself that I loved myself.
Hmm.
And you think, it's kind of that like, oh, that sounds easy, and then you go to do it.
Hmm.
And then when you hit the point where, yeah, you can do it, like, dang, I really do love myself. I even kind of like myself.
Hmm.
Then it's just a whole different ballgame, but it takes a lot of practice to get there.
Yeah, yeah, I want to just like tell people that too. If you don't mind, I have like a practice that I
No,
would like to
yeah,
teach. Yeah, and it's just kind of what you're saying now, a practice of self-kindness. So in my approach, in my opinion, like you're learning self-love, self-kindness, like just learning how to be kind to yourself. That's the floor, that's the ground, that's the place to start. Get that skill, and then you can use that to launch into, then you start expressing yourself and forgiving yourself and setting boundaries. But you got to have like a base floor of being kind. um and just like you were saying, it's awkward, it's hard, it doesn't feel natural to be like, I love you, if you never done it before, or if you don't really mean it, you
right,
know?
right.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe yourself when you know you don't.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
hard
when
to
you
buy
hate
into it when
yourself.
you know you don't believe it.
Yeah. And yeah, if it's yeah, it's hard to be nice to yourself, if, let's be real, if you feel like you hate yourself.
Hmm.
And we have all felt it before.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So the practice, this is so simple. And honestly, the thing that's changed my life the most, it'll take just a few minutes, I think, to teach you guys, but it's called undercover kindness. And undercover because no one's going to be able to tell you're doing it. You can do it anytime. Eyes open, eyes closed, whatever. And kindness, because this is the practice of self kindness. So I'm going to walk you guys through the three parts of it. And the idea is to do this, to make a practice of it, a habit of it, to do it every day
Mm.
while you're doing something mundane and like not stressful. So, like folding laundry, or like knitting, or chopping vegetables, or in the shower, or while you pee, when you wash your hands. That's a good one. Just like these regular little, it only takes a few moments.
Okay.
And so that's the idea. We want to like tie it onto some mundane habit. So keep that in mind, so that it's more easily accessible when you're feeling all stressed out later. It's not easy to bring on when you're in the I hate myself state. So you bring
Hmm.
it on in the like, oh, okay, I'm folding laundry, whatever. Okay, so the three parts are breath, body, and words, like internal dialogue. So the first part is just, and yes, we do them all three at the same time. So the first part is breath. So just take a nice big inhale and exhale. Already feel better, right? But the point is to imagine kindness, that your breath is saturated with kindness. So it's an imaginative exercise. So first of all, just like bringing attention to your breath can remember, ground you a little bit. Remember that you're a breathing human being. But then this imaginative exercise of like, maybe you breathe and bring some softness to the headache, or to the tension in your shoulders, or to the cramp in your stomach. Just let your breath be soft and nurturing. And then the second part is body, which basically it means hold your body in a loving way. whatever that looks like. Often people say it's posture, like, oh, I realize I'm like slumped over like this. So you might, just sit up straight and maybe drop your shoulders, or maybe it feels good to like put your hands on your hips, or maybe you want to like, you want to just like hold yourself, hold yourself, or like um, pet your leg, or like that. And another thing, if you're driving and doing it, it can be like, often when I'm driving, I notice like I got a death grip on the wheel, I'm like, okay, hold on, just like relax, hold my body in a loving way. And another one that gets me all the time is chopping vegetables. I'll be chopping and all of a sudden I'm like, just like my shoulders are up here and I'm like gripping the knife, like, oh, okay, like just it's a moment to hold your body in a loving way, breathe kindness. Those are the first two parts. It can look like all different things for whatever you're doing. And then the third part is dialogue. So this is where it's awkward. You practice kind words. You just bring the kind inner dialogue. And I often tell people a good place to start is like cheerleader vibes. Like, you are doing a good job. Like, good job. You didn't, punch that guy in the face. Good job. Like, I know you worked really hard today, or if you're pumping yourself up in the beginning of the morning, like, I believe in you. This is going to be a big day. And like, you could do this, like, like kind of pep talk. That's a good place to start. And then you start, and also, I love you, you throw that one in there from the beginning, and I love you, and it feels weird at first, like, I love you, just like you said, but it feels weird for everybody. It feels awkward for everybody but you got to keep going. That's why you got to do these things every day, like pinning on some of these, and you can do it for 5 seconds and it's enough, but just keep doing it is the only thing. And then eventually your body becomes like, remembers how to do it, and that's all. And then you'll just find that you're kinder to yourself.
And this is the crazy cool part. So we tend to think, so when you think about, you've spent your whole life dissing on yourself, being frustrated or angry or not liking or just hating yourself. But in some way, you've spent the bulk of your life in that state.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it is a daily practice, but when you really think about it, takes maybe a year of doing that daily to really reprogram, to create those new neurons and to create that new sense of self. That is no time at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like healing, we feel like it takes a long time, but really it doesn't.
Yeah.
In that grand scheme of when you think about how long you've been feeling,
Mm-hmm.
it really doesn't.
Yeah. Once a year. But honestly, people, if you stick to this practice, you'll feel the results much sooner,
Yeah,
uh 30 days. Give yourself 30 days of doing it.
I
See if
love
you're
it.
not hooked on it, but you gotta keep doing it. That's the only thing. It's just like the practice with anything. I there are so many cool tricks and tools and ways to soothe and help yourself, but you just got to pick one and do it and keep doing it because they work.
I love that. I love that. So,
Yeah,
Erin, I know you have a retreat coming up. Do you want to tell us about it?
I do. It's actually brand new, just announced. Um, yeah, if any of you are wondering like about self-marriage, like how do you do it, well, always you can come to my Facebook group, which I'm sure we can link somewhere, and we're like in the practices every day. But we're having our first self-marriage retreat in March of next year in
That's
Oregon.
amazing.
That's all the details we got so far. Yeah, if you want to come over to my Facebook group, we're going to have more details as available. But yeah, I'm so excited to do that, like be with women again in person. It's going to be a women only retreat. um, and yeah, and I've been marrying people over the internet for the last year and a half, so I'm excited to do it in person again.
That's so stinking awesome.
It-
And what is your group's name so that people can look for it? And I will drop it in the comments below too, but just so people know.
It's called the Heart Healing Sisterhood. Y'all can Google it. It's so wonderful. It's such a lovely space. Yeah, you're welcome to come find me there and learn more about this the self-marriage, self-love game, tips, tricks, and tools. We're going to have Holly on there
That's
for
right.
too long.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Oh, Erin, you're so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. We'll bring you
Thank you.
back.
Yeah, yeah, I
Bring you
love that.
back closer to your retreat so that you can really share what's going to be there and share that
Yeah.
information with us. How's that?
So just to the first, I just actually announced it today to like my core group, and the first thing on the agenda, the first request is s'mores. So there will be s'mores. That's all I know so far. The rest of it is going to be awesome, I'm sure, but the only for sure detail is there will be s'mores. Oh yeah, and also this awesome house on the beach. I'll tell you all about it later.
Yes. That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your work and thanks for doing your work.
My legitimate pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
I will. Thanks.